It was just after 1 in the afternoon when the calm rhythm of Los Angeles was suddenly broken by sirens. A cluster of police vehicles and ambulances tore through the winding roads of the Hollywood Hills, a neighborhood more familiar with luxury cars than flashing lights. Within minutes, news stations began reporting that a violent altercation had occurred at a high-end property, leaving one person seriously injured. But it wasn't the crime itself that stunned people. It was the name unexpectedly tied to the address, Bono, the global rock icon and frontman of U2. The initial details were sparse. A person had been stabbed, another taken into custody. The property, a large home still under construction, was immediately surrounded by investigators. The Los Angeles Fire Department confirmed a single victim transported to a nearby hospital, though no information was released about their condition or identity. What began as a local disturbance quickly became a headline, igniting curiosity across the internet. Hollywood Hills isn't just any neighborhood. Its residents are entertainers, executives, and global figures who pay for privacy. So when police swarmed one of its hillside properties in broad daylight, the scene drew instant attention from paparazzi and drone cameras. Reporters described a half-finished modern mansion, still fenced off for construction, now illuminated by flashing red and blue lights. Within hours, outlets like TMZ and People confirmed what everyone was already whispering, that the property had financial ties to Bono. Public records listed him as one of several investors in the project, part of a broader real estate portfolio. He wasn't there. In fact, he was reportedly out of the country at the time. But in an era when one famous name can reshape an entire narrative, that single detail changed everything. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a stabbing. It was about a celebrity-linked stabbing. Social media lit up with speculation. Was it a break-in? A feud? A secret party gone wrong? The truth, at least for now, was simpler and stranger. The house wasn't even finished. Only construction workers were supposed to be on site that day. Yet someone ended up in a hospital and someone else in police custody. By sunset, aerial footage showed investigators marking evidence along the driveway. The white tarps, the quiet murmurs between officers, it all hinted at something violent that had unfolded only hours earlier. But beyond the crime scene tape, one question echoed louder than any siren. Why was Bono's name involved at all? For fans who knew him as a humanitarian, a peace advocate, and a global philanthropist, this association felt surreal. Bono had spent decades building an image rooted in compassion and activism, and now that image was unexpectedly connected, even if indirectly, to a violent act in the heart of Los Angeles. What began as a single police call had just turned into a mystery that would grip Hollywood for days, but what investigators discovered next would make the story even stranger. When police arrived at the secluded Hollywood Hills address just after 1:22 p.m., the situation was already tense. The sun hung high above Los Angeles, casting long shadows across unfinished concrete and scaffolding. The sound of construction had stopped. In its place, silence interrupted only by the distant hum of police radios and the echo of hurried footsteps. Officers moved with urgency, sweeping through the half-built structure, their voices clipped, professional and cautious. According to reports later released by the Los Angeles Police Department, one person was found injured near the driveway, a stabbing victim who was quickly stabilized by paramedics from the Los Angeles Fire Department. The victim's identity, condition, and connection to the property were not disclosed, but what was clear was that this was not a random act on the street. It happened inside a restricted private site, tucked away behind high walls and security gates. Witnesses, if any existed, weren't speaking publicly. Neighbors in the area described the scene as unusually quiet for the Hollywood Hills, a neighborhood where privacy is sacred and gossip rarely escapes the iron gates. Helicopters circled overhead for nearly an hour as word spread that the location was tied to one of U2's most famous faces. The property itself was still under heavy renovation. Construction tools, safety gear, and piles of raw material littered the lot. It wasn't a home yet, just a shell of one, a work in progress. That detail made the stabbing even more confusing. Only authorized workers were supposed to be there, according to sources quoted by TMZ. The idea that violence could erupt in such a controlled environment suggested a confrontation, possibly between people who knew each other. Police confirmed one person was detained at the scene, but even as the suspect sat in custody, officers were hesitant to label the incident as a definitive crime. Was it an accident? A dispute that escalated? Something deeper? The LAPD offered no official classification. That silence, combined with Bono's unexpected association, sent speculation spiraling. By mid-afternoon, reporters and paparazzi lined the narrow road leading up to the house. Their cameras captured hazy glimpses of detectives moving in and out of the property, collecting evidence, snapping photos, and marking small yellow tags near the garage and entry path. A stretch of the road was briefly cordoned off, as investigators worked to reconstruct the events of that afternoon. From the outside, the scene looked almost cinematic. Luxury hills, panoramic views of Los Angeles, and in the middle of it all, flashing emergency lights bouncing off the glass panels of a half-built mansion. It was the kind of image that captures Hollywood's strange duality. Glamour and danger, beauty and chaos existing side by side. And though Bono himself was nowhere near the area, his name lingered in every conversation. Police, reporters, and fans all wanted to know, how did one of music's most respected figures become entangled in this violent headline? The investigation had only just begun, but the media storm was already in full swing. And as night fell over the hills, a new wave of revelations was about to surface, ones that would pull Bono's connection into even sharper focus. When the first reports mentioned Bono's name, most people assumed it was a mistake. How could one of the world's most celebrated musicians, a man known for his activism, philanthropy, and peace efforts, be linked to a violent crime scene in Los Angeles? But within hours, multiple reputable outlets confirmed the detail. The property where the stabbing occurred was part of a real estate investment group that listed Bono as one of several financial backers. It wasn't his private home. He didn't live there, and he wasn't even in the country when the attack happened. But that didn't matter. In the fast-moving world of celebrity news, one famous name is enough to shift the spotlight entirely. The story transformed from a local police report into a full-blown international headline. Person stabbed outside property linked to Bono. For many, the phrase linked to left room for imagination, and imagination filled the gaps faster than facts could. On social media, fans and critics alike began to debate what kind of link this was. Was Bono secretly investing in high-end properties? Was it a personal residence being built in secret? Or was this just a case of business collateral turning into unwanted publicity? According to TMZ, the house was one of several luxury projects under construction in the Hollywood Hills, financed by a small group of international investors. Bono's involvement, they reported, was purely financial, yet that distinction was lost in the rush for attention-grabbing headlines. As with most viral stories, nuance vanished in favor of intrigue. Behind the scenes, publicists scrambled. Representatives for Bono declined to comment immediately, a move that, while standard in early stages of breaking news, only fueled further curiosity. The absence of an official statement allowed speculation to breathe, and the internet rarely resists a mystery involving a celebrity of Bono's stature. For fans who've followed his decades-long career, this development felt bizarre. Bono isn't a tabloid figure. His legacy rests on humanitarian efforts, not scandal. He's the face of global charity movements, the voice behind songs about unity and hope. Yet now, that same name was trending alongside words like stabbing and Hollywood crime scene. It was an uncomfortable contrast, a man known for building bridges caught in the orbit of a story about violence and secrecy, even though every outlet repeated the same clarification, that Bono had no involvement and that the incident occurred at a construction property he merely invested in. The damage was already done. His name was now inseparable from the incident in the public's mind. By nightfall, Dr. Bono was trending on X, not because of new music, but because of confusion. Fans demanded answers. Critics mocked the celebrity real estate bubble, and journalists chased every possible angle. Still, amid all the speculation, one fact stood firm. Bono's connection was indirect, almost incidental. Yet in a city like Los Angeles, where reputation is everything and privacy is illusion, even the slightest link can cast a long shadow. And this shadow was only beginning to grow. Because the next question everyone started asking was, if Bono wasn't there, who was? Behind the polished headlines and the celebrity association lies a very different setting, one that feels more like a work site than a mansion. The property in question wasn't a glamorous Hollywood estate filled with famous guests. It was a construction zone, raw and unfinished, where the noise of drills and hammers usually drowned out any conversation. But on October 9th, that noise stopped abruptly. The home was still being built, a modern architectural project designed to overlook the city skyline. Blueprints showed a sleek glass exterior, open terraces, and minimalistic design elements, the kind of property destined to fetch millions once completed. But at the time of the incident, it was just scaffolding, power tools, and dust. Only licensed contractors and site workers were supposed to be there. That's what made the stabbing so unsettling. If the public reports were correct, there should have been no outsiders, no guests, no parties, no random visitors. Every person on site was either working, managing, or inspecting the project. So how did a confrontation violent enough to send one person to the hospital even happen? Sources told TMZ that the police detained someone at the scene, but authorities stopped short of naming the suspect or releasing a motive. The silence created a vacuum, and speculation rushed in to fill it. Was this a dispute between workers, an accident that spiraled out of control, or could it have been something personal that played out behind those temporary walls? Investigators spent hours combing through the site. They marked evidence around the driveway and the front entrance, areas where signs of a struggle were most visible. Witnesses said a white tarp was used to shield part of the view from cameras, but aerial footage still showed scattered debris and toolboxes left mid-task. The entire area looked frozen in time, as if construction had stopped the instant chaos broke out. Neighbors, accustomed to the quiet hum of workdays, described hearing raised voices just before the sirens. One resident recalled thinking it was just another construction argument, the kind that happens when stress and noise run high. No one expected it to turn violent. Meanwhile, contractors affiliated with the project refused to comment publicly, citing the ongoing investigation. Those who spoke off the record described the environment as professional and tightly controlled, which only deepened the mystery. If everyone was accounted for, how did a violent incident slip through? By evening, detectives had sealed off the entire area, and work was officially halted until further notice. What had begun as a multi-million-dollar investment now looked like a crime scene. And even though Bono's involvement was limited to financial stakes, his name gave the site an unwanted kind of fame, the kind that lingers. In a city built on appearances, construction sites are supposed to symbolize creation, the promise of something new. But here, among the unfinished walls and half-poured concrete, something darker had taken shape. And as investigators pieced together the chain of events, a new storyline was forming online. One filled with wild theories, unverified claims, and whispers that this stabbing was only the beginning of a much bigger mystery. As news of the stabbing spread, the facts became harder to separate from the noise. Within hours of TMZ publishing their first report, social media transformed the Hollywood Hills incident into a full-blown mystery. The words linked to Bono took on a life of their own, and soon what had started as a single report turned into a trending topic with hundreds of versions, each more dramatic than the last. On X, formerly Twitter, users debated everything, from the identity of the suspect to whether the incident was connected to organized crime, celebrity parties, or even secret investment disputes. Some claimed the stabbing happened during a private gathering, though police had already clarified the site was an active construction zone. Others speculated that the argument was about money, construction delays, or unpaid labor. None of it was verified, but that didn't stop the theories from spreading. Over on Reddit's Pop Culture Chat, the tone was more analytical but no less speculative. Users dissected public property records, noting that Bono's name appeared as part of a trust or corporate group that held shares in several development projects across Los Angeles. "It's not like he's living there," one user pointed out, "but because it's Bono, it's instantly headline material." Another replied, "If this were anyone else's investment, no one would even care. But fame changes the weight of every story. The pattern was familiar, a celebrity's name attached to a tragedy, and suddenly the truth becomes secondary to the thrill of connection. Even news outlets, eager to ride the wave of public interest, used cautious but provocative phrasing: Bono-linked property, Bono investment home, Bono's Los Angeles project. Each variation kept his name in circulation, ensuring clicks, comments, and continuous speculation. Then came the TikTok videos. Fast-paced edits with ominous background music, captions like, "The truth about Bono's house," flashing across grainy helicopter footage. Amateur sleuths narrated theories with confidence, even when the details contradicted official statements. Some users analyzed the topography of the property, trying to match it with luxury homes rumored to be owned by other musicians. By the end of the first 24 hours, the story wasn't just a news item, it had become digital folklore. The stabbing itself was almost secondary. The intrigue now centered on why Bono's name was there at all. Each platform created its own version of the narrative, merging fact, rumor, and imagination into something larger than reality. But while fans and content creators built theories, the authorities stayed silent. No confirmation of motive, no update on the victim's condition, no press conference from Bono's representatives. The quiet only added fuel to the fire, and that silence left one haunting idea hanging in the air. That maybe there was something more happening behind the scenes, something the public wasn't meant to know. Of course, most of these claims lacked any proof, yet in an age where attention moves faster than accuracy, that hardly mattered. People weren't looking for facts anymore. They were looking for a story. And as the theories multiplied, attention shifted back to the man at the center of it all, Bono himself, a figure whose name had never before been wrapped in such controversy. The internet wanted answers. But who was Bono beyond the headlines? And why did this story strike such a strange chord with the public? For decades, Bono has been more than a rock star. He's been a symbol. The sunglasses, the humanitarian speeches, the effortless charisma, they've turned him into something larger than life. To most people, he isn't just the frontman of U2. He's the man who shook hands with presidents, spoke at the United Nations, and championed causes that transcended music. But fame, especially one built on idealism, is a fragile thing. When Bono's name suddenly appeared in connection to a violent incident, fans weren't just shocked, they were confused. This was the same man known for fighting global poverty, not someone whose investments would make the evening crime blotter. The truth, though, is that Bono's world has always been more complex than it appears. Behind the stage lights and charity galas lies a network of global ventures: music, tech startups, real estate, and even private equity. He's long been known to invest in projects across Los Angeles, Dublin, and beyond. Most of them fly under the radar, until something like this happens. What makes Bono such a fascinating figure is the contradiction he embodies. On one hand, he's the activist musician, the man who co-founded the One campaign, who helped launch Product Red, who used his fame to pressure governments into forgiving debt for developing nations. On the other hand, he's a sharp businessman, known for backing companies like Facebook and Yelp before they exploded. He's spoken openly about capitalism's role in solving global issues, a stance that's earned him both admiration and criticism. That blend of idealism and pragmatism has made Bono one of the most polarizing figures in entertainment. Some call him a visionary. Others accuse him of being out of touch. So when the words Bono-linked property began flashing across news feeds, people didn't know how to react. To his critics, it felt like proof of hypocrisy. The rock star investor caught up in a mess of luxury real estate and violence. To his supporters, it was clearly a misunderstanding. Another example of the media twisting headlines for clicks. Still, the incident struck a nerve. For years, Bono's public image has been carefully curated. Deeply political, yet spiritual. Commercial, yet altruistic. But this story blurred those lines. Suddenly, Bono wasn't the hero on stage. He was a name in a police report, even if indirectly. And for many, that shift was jarring. Yet those who know him well insist this is exactly why Bono's reputation has endured. He's no stranger to controversy, and he's learned to navigate it with calm precision. Every scandal, every headline, every rumor, he faces it with the same quiet confidence that's defined his career. Still, this time feels different. Because unlike a tabloid rumor or political backlash, this story involves real violence, real police, and real unanswered questions. And the longer those questions go unanswered, the more people begin to wonder. Could there be something deeper behind the Hollywood Hills incident than what's being revealed to the public? Whatever the truth is, one thing's certain. Bono's spotless image has never faced a test quite like this one. When the news first broke that a person had been stabbed outside a property tied to Bono, it was like dropping a spark into dry brush. Within hours, social media ignited. Hashtags like Bono House Incident and Hollywood Hills Mystery began trending, and speculation spread faster than facts ever could. The irony was that Bono himself was thousands of miles away, touring Europe, meeting diplomats far removed from the chaos back in Los Angeles. But that didn't stop the headlines from spinning. TMZ dropped the first exclusive, followed quickly by People, Page 6, and E! News. Each outlet repeated the same core facts: a stabbing, a victim in the hospital, a suspect in custody. But what really drove the clicks were the three words linked to Bono. It didn't matter that he wasn't present. It didn't matter that it was a business investment. Once a celebrity's name enters a police report, the narrative takes on a life of its own. You could almost feel the tension in the online comments, fans defending him, critics mocking his do-gooder image, and conspiracy threads weaving wild theories about what really happened at that house. But as the media frenzy intensified, the people who actually knew something, the LAPD, the fire department, and Bono's representatives, went silent. No detailed statements, no updates on the victim's condition, just a sterile, ongoing investigation response. That silence, intentional or not, only made the story more combustible. Reporters camped outside the gated property, hoping to capture a glimpse of any official activity. Drones hovered above the hillside mansion still under construction, while locals claimed to have heard shouting before the police arrived. None of it was confirmed, but in the digital age, rumor and reality blur quickly. Then came the TikTok detectives. Dozens of videos appeared within a day. Creators analyzing blurry photos of the property, comparing architectural blueprints, even speculating about which investor might have been involved. It became the kind of viral mystery the internet loves, messy, sensational, and unsolved. Still, through all the noise, Bono remained silent. No public statement, no social media comment, no spokesperson denying or clarifying. For someone usually quick to speak on political and humanitarian issues, the quiet was noticeable. Fans wondered if he'd been advised by his legal team to stay out of it, or if he simply didn't want to fuel the fire. But silence has its cost. Without a clear voice guiding the narrative, the story began to drift, from factual reporting into full-blown speculation. And the more people filled in the blanks themselves, the more distorted the story became. By the second day, some outlets started walking their headlines back, clarifying that Bono had no direct involvement. But by then, the damage was done. The words Bono and stabbing had already fused together in public memory. The kind of association that lingers long after the facts are forgotten, and somewhere in Los Angeles, investigators were still piecing together the truth. Quietly, methodically, and without the noise of social media. Because beneath the media circus, one question remained unanswered. Who was the real target that day? And why did this happen at a property tied to one of music's biggest icons? Days have passed since that afternoon in the Hollywood Hills, yet the story refuses to fade. The scene of the stabbing, once just another construction site in a quiet, gated neighborhood, has turned into a symbol of unanswered questions and media obsession. The property, once known only to investors and contractors, now carries the shadow of something darker. The police investigation is still active, and officials have kept their statements to the bare minimum. One person was taken into custody, one victim hospitalized, and that's it. No motive, no public ID, no details about what sparked the violence. That vacuum of information has left the public guessing, filling every silence with theories. Was it a personal dispute? A job site argument gone too far? Or something more complicated tied to the people behind the property? Bono's name, of course, remains at the center of the storm. Even though he's been confirmed to have no direct connection to the incident, he was never there. He had nothing to do with the individuals involved. But that hasn't stopped the speculation. The internet has a way of keeping stories alive long after the facts have been clarified. In an age where perception can outweigh truth, even one wrong headline can echo louder than the actual evidence. Yet the real fascination here isn't just about Bono. It's about what this story represents. The collision between celebrity, wealth, and the unpredictable chaos of real life. People love seeing the cracks in perfection, even when they're not real. A quiet construction site, an investor's name, a single act of violence. Suddenly, the whole world is watching. Behind the scenes, sources claim the project itself was a multi-million-dollar investment involving several high-profile backers. That means any disturbance, no matter how small, becomes magnified. Every camera, every journalist, every bystander wants to uncover the hidden link, the piece that ties a global superstar to something he may not even be aware of. But perhaps that's the true story here. Not the stabbing itself, but how fast fame turns private misfortune into public spectacle. A crime that should have been a local police matter became international news simply because one of the investors happened to be Bono. And that says more about the culture we live in than the incident itself. As of now, the victim's condition remains undisclosed, and authorities haven't released further details. Bono's representatives continue to decline comment, and no new arrests have been reported. The mansion stands silent, guarded, half-finished, and waiting for construction to resume. Still, one can't help but wonder, how long will this shadow follow him? Even when you've built a lifetime of goodwill, one random event can rewrite the narrative overnight. Because in Hollywood, silence doesn't end stories. It feeds them. And until the full truth comes out, this one will linger like a question mark in the hills above Los Angeles. So what really happened in those Hollywood hills? Right now, no one outside the investigation truly knows. But one thing is clear. When fame and mystery collide, truth becomes the hardest thing to find. A quiet construction site turned crime scene, a global rock legend pulled into headlines he never wanted, and a city that feeds on speculation more than answers. As the story unfolds, the world will be watching, not just for the investigation, but for how quickly reputation can change in an instant. Because in Hollywood, stories don't die, they evolve. Stay tuned, the hills are still whispering.